Social Security taxes start automatically the day you start working. But when the time comes, you've got to file an application to get your benefits. When to file? Well, it's not that simple. You need a strategery. Here with the important considerations, federal retirement expert Tammy Flanagan. Tammy, good to have you back.
Thanks, Tom. I'm glad to be back. And this is a very important topic. A lot of people ask about claiming, and a lot of people have opinions, pretty strong opinions sometimes about, whether it's better to take it right at 62 or whether to delay. So I'm happy we're talking about this today.
Because one of the considerations that you can't know is when you're going to depart this earth. And
that would be helpful as far as this decision goes, but I don't think we really want to go there, do we?
No, because if you start at 62 and you're dead at 68, then if you had thought of waiting till 70, you get nothing.
Well, you won't need the money, will you?
Right. So what are the big factors then?
Funny we're talking about this because yesterday I received in the mail a letter from Social Security reminding me that I'm going to be reaching my full retirement age next month. And your full retirement age is somewhere between 65 and 67. And at that point, it's all based on your year of birth. So the young folks who were born in 1960 or later, that's age 67. I'm a little bit behind that. But anyway, so when you reach that full retirement age, that's when you're entitled to your unreduced Social Security benefit, your full benefit. So when you decide to claim that benefit at age 62, which is your first eligibility to claim it, it's a 30% reduction or close to it for someone like me who's older. So we really do have to give some thought to whether or not it makes sense to take it early or to wait till our full age or some other point all the way up to age 70. So we all have this same 8-year window. And the theory for some people is, I'm going to get it while the getting's good, because if I'm retired and who knows what's going to happen to the future of Social Security, I might as well take it. And that's fine. You can do that. I don't think Social Security is going anywhere. And I think for those of us who are either near or at the age we can claim it, it would be unlikely for Congress to make big changes because that would create a riot, in my opinion. So I don't think that's a big fear that's well-founded, but some people feel that way. I think the more important questions to ask is, number one, do you need the money right now? Like, for instance, someone like me who's at a later age still working and my husband's still living and he has a retirement and I have, savings, and we're not really needing that Social Security check right now. And my theory in my situation is that I'm going to delay it if I can till age 70, because as long as we're both still living and comfortable financially, I'd rather have that much bigger check in case I do live a long time. It's okay if we all die at age 81. It really doesn't matter when you claim it. But what if you live to 91 or even 101? You don't want to run out of money. And this is one of those checks that comes as long as you live. And if you get that bigger check, the cost of living adjustments is going to be based on a bigger amount. So
sure.
That's my theory.
And then there's the idea, too, that because they tax Social Security, which you paid for with a tax, but that's another topic,
right,
that if you take it while you're still having healthy other streams, like from full-time work, you're going to pay a higher tax rate.
That's absolutely true. So why create more taxable income when there's an advantage to leaving it where it is? But, we always have the other situation where people retire at younger ages. They might stop working completely when they're in their 50s or early 60s. And without claiming Social Security, they probably don't have enough money to really live comfortably. And so if you've saved enough in your savings and you have, government pension in the case of our audience, there's nothing wrong with claiming it when you retire. So I don't want anyone to ever feel guilty that they took it early, because that's what retirement is. It's the source of those 3 streams of income. So there's something to be said for that as well.
And by the way, what is the processing time these days? If you make your application to Social Security, how long does it take till that first check comes?
Well, it's nothing like your first civil service or first retirement check, because Social Security is all electronic. So if I went on Social Security's website today, I could file for my benefit right there online. It'd probably take me about 30 minutes. And I should have my first check by next month. So it's really not a big process. The disability benefits are a little more time consuming because they have to be reviewed and medical documentation has to be considered. But if you're applying for Medicare or Social Security retirement, it's a pretty painless process.
And briefly, what are the considerations for spouses? Say one half of the couple has consistently earned more and therefore will have a bigger Social Security payout that is the one that goes to the spouse if the higher earning one dies first?
Yeah. Well, first of all, a lot of people don't realize this, especially if you're younger and you haven't thought much about this. But while both spouses are living, there could be a benefit paid on the higher income's work record to the spouse who's still alive. So we have what's called spousal benefits, which we don't have under the federal retirement system. So in other words, let's say you had a spouse who worked very little outside the home, doesn't have much, if any, Social Security of their own. They can claim benefits based on their spouse's work record, and they can collect up to 50% of that while both of you are still living. So a lot of spouses are still entitled to those benefits. We think of those more like back in the station wagon days when dad took the car to work and mom stayed home with the kids, but we still have a lot of stay-at-home parents today and people who don't work outside the home for whatever reason. So that's still in play. But
so that means 50% of the higher income person's Social Security is more than the regular amount for the one who earned less.
That's correct.
Got it.
Yeah. So for instance, let's say I'm the higher wage earner and my benefit is $2,000 a month at my full retirement age, and my spouse, let's say, only has earned a benefit of $600 a month. Well, they're going to get half of that $2,000 because that's more than their own $600. So yeah, the higher benefit would be payable in that case. And again, that also depends on what age you claim it, because there's reductions. But as a widow or a surviving spouse, it becomes a different story, because in that case, you can claim that widow's benefit at any age if you have young children, or as early as age 60, even if there are no children that are dependent on you. So in some cases, if your spouse dies early, you can claim that widow's benefit and delay your own earned benefit to pick up those extra credits. So that's one case where you can choose between the two if you haven't claimed the first one in advance. So that's another option there. But widows can take over that deceased spouse's benefit at any age, of course, as long as they're 60 or above.
We're speaking with Tammy Flanagan. She's a principal with RetireFederal.com and a longtime expert in these matters. And at the same time, you're thinking about Social Security as a Fed. As you touched on a moment ago, there is your main federal annuity, your FERS annuity that you would have to apply for. And as you implied, that just doesn't come the week you retire by any stretch of the imagination, does it?
No, it's a whole process when you apply for your federal retirement benefit. Sometimes we call it your government pension. But whether it's FERS or CSRS, that benefit is going to be processed from your agency through the HR office, onto payroll, onto OPM. And even you have a role in that whole process, because it's your responsibility to file the application, to make sure it's filled out completely, make sure you've included all the documents that it's asking you to include, and then hand it into HR at least 30 days, more likely 60, 90, even 120 days ahead of your date of retirement, because your HR office has work to do. They have to put together this literal package of papers that they're going to put in a FedEx envelope and mail that to OPM as soon as you retire, usually within the first 2 weeks of your life after retirement. That goes to OPM. Payroll has to wait until they pay out your last paycheck to send that payroll information. And they do send it electronically from payroll, but that also hits OPM within that first month after you retire. So once it gets to OPM, it goes to a mail room because it's a package of papers, right? So they have to put 2-hole punch and put it in a cardboard folder and do a little triage to see if there's maybe a health benefit change on the top of that stack, or maybe this is a disability. It has to go to a different office to look over the medical documentation. Or maybe this is someone who it's questionable whether or not they're eligible to retire. So somebody has to make sure that they've met the age and service requirements to even collect a benefit. So there's a lot of work that gets done along the way before it even gets to that final processing stage where they start to cut the checks and pay you on a monthly basis.
And if you had many different assignments at different agencies or in and out of government, does that complicate it and make it slower?
It can. Yeah, I'm working with a guy right now who worked for 3 different agencies. One of them was up on Capitol Hill, and they don't do official personnel folders with the normal documentation. They have a transcript of service. And OPM wasn't giving him credit for that because they didn't have that transcript from up on Capitol Hill. So that delayed his, believe it or not, he's still waiting after 2 years. There was a couple of other things that got in the way of his. So they won't finalize that claim until they have everything they need to really give you the accurate benefit.